Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk Tech with Apps Associates. Apps Associates is a premier enterprise applications and technology advisor, counseling and executing across every stage of the enterprise transformation journey. In this new series, we'll bring you insights and advice from our experts across the organization, highlighting emerging trends in enterprise technology management and giving you real-life examples of how these trends impact your business. My name is Molly McGee. I'm a marketing manager at Apps Associates, and I'll be guiding our discussions today. We're going to cover AI and predictive capabilities. Everyone is talking about it, but what does it mean for your business? Here to answer those questions are some colleagues from our CRM and business integration and automation teams. We're joined by John Christie, our Director of Cloud Solutions, Steve Baines, Vice President of Strategic Accounts, Preeti Lobo, our Senior Director of Business Integration and Automation, and John Houtsma, our Director of Salesforce Alliance. So let's jump right in. Let's do some level setting first. We're going to talk a lot about AI, mostly in terms of CRM, or customer relationship management technology. But Preeti, do you want to start by explaining some of the basic concepts of AI that we might cover in today's session?
Sure, thank you, Molly. So we'll start with the main components of AI. The main components of AI are machine learning, which is essentially using algorithms and statistical models to improve the performance of a specific task without that actually being programmed into the system directly. Then you have natural language processing, which focuses on the interaction of humans and computers using natural language, think speech recognition. Computer vision, which is essentially trying to mimic the human eye and how it processes data. Robotics, which is the design, development, and implementation of robots, actual physical representations of people, essentially. And then expert systems, which is developing of computer programs for a very niche area, trying to formulate decisions that a human expert would do. And then what we have are different streams of AI: conversational AI, generative AI, and predictive AI. And then they use these main components as a backbone, so to speak. When we're talking conversational AI, it's primarily focused on natural language processing and some other AI models. Predictive and generative tend to use machine learning. Generative AI is essentially the creation of new content. Think code, music, marketing materials, and things like that. And it can take any unstructured data and provide all these beautiful images, music, new ideas for people to consume. Predictive AI uses data from the past. It looks at data historically, tries to identify patterns, and then does a predictive analysis, or in a sense, it's predicting what the future outcomes or patterns would be. Keeping this aside, there's another concept called robotic process automation, or RPA for short, and that is essentially using bots to mimic human interaction at a keyboard, and it's typically used for manual, really boring, labor-intensive tasks. Just for some fun, I'm going to throw in integration, which is the interaction of various systems and enables data to pass from one system to another, allows for transformations, and so forth. And then you take all of this, put it under one umbrella, and that is hyper-automation. So hopefully that sets some concepts that we will be discussing today and helps set a baseline. Over to you, Molly.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Preeti. So some of the things that you mentioned in some of the latest AI releases from larger companies like Salesforce involve both predictive and generative AI capabilities. So Preeti kind of laid the foundation for that, but I don't know, Steve, do you want to kind of explain the difference between those two concepts in terms of CRM and what that might mean?
Sure. And if you have seen anything put out by companies such as Salesforce or Oracle, you know that AI is at the center of everything that they're doing this day and age. As the world generates more and more data, it's becoming more and more challenging to actually make sense of that data. So leveraging AI at some point is going to be commonplace for everybody. Using Salesforce as an example, what they've done is they have adopted some of the things that Preeti just covered around machine learning, conversational AI, predictive. In the case of Salesforce, they talk a lot about the use of GPT and prompts, both from a business user side as well as a technical user. They've had predictive capabilities for quite a few years now. As an example, you've got years and years of pipeline data. How do you go about actually sifting through that and making sense of it? and identifying if potentially you have white space in the products that you're selling. Maybe you sell auto parts and you have a gap where you're not necessarily penetrating a market in the Northwest United States, and there's an opportunity there. You can use that predictive AI to really sift through thousands and millions of rows of data to help you make those decisions. Salesforce is putting a lot of focus now on generative AI. As you're talking with your customers and your prospects, helping come up with that right message at that right time, but generating that message based on what you already know about that customer. Do you know that they've purchased coffee mugs from you, or pens, or phones? And then using that data to leverage a message that's going to resonate with them. You still need humans, where we're not talking about complete automation where you're just pressing a button and off it goes, but at least it gives you a starting point to author that content and give that CRM user the ability to customize it and tailor it specific to that customer, but leveraging AI to do the bulk of the work for you.
Yeah, I think that you made a good point at the beginning as well, that pretty much every single company is in this race now to release all of this new functionality, and there's so many options for what you might be able to do. I think it's a good time to mention also that this is all brand new, right? And we're talking about this in things that we're predicting and seeing the potential of, but it's still very new in practice, right? There hasn't been a lot of actual implementations that have rolled out yet. So we're kind of on the cutting edge, I guess, in that sense.
Absolutely. And as we're recording this, we're just on the heels of Dreamforce. You couldn't walk 2 feet without hearing AI mentioned at Dreamforce. And of course, a lot of our customers are reaching out to us and say, how do I use this? How do I take advantage of this? It's new for us, just like it's new for them. So I think everybody's trying to find their way as to how to best leverage this technology. Certainly doing it in a way, though, that's not jeopardizing data, exposing data, or creating points of exploitation. So if you look at anybody who's talking about AI now, right now, trust and security is at the center of all of those conversations.
Definitely. John, I know, Christy, you interact a lot with our customers and kind of hear their questions. What do you think you see as the most practical application for something like predictive or generative functionality within Salesforce for our average user?
Yeah, I think from the business standpoint, what Salesforce has already released in Sales GPT and Service GPT is the starting point of those types of features. For example, Sales GPT, with sales emails, you can select a topic, and this isn't a form letter. It's not a mail merge or anything like that. It's literally a topic like introduction to new prospect, follow up on phone calls, something to that extent. And generative AI is going to create a message based on that account's information, the opportunity information, the quote information, everything that we have in Salesforce around that account. And it's going to create a customized, tailored message, again, for a phone call follow-up or something to that extent, that then can be reviewed and edited by the sales rep before it's sent out. In there, you have things like call summaries, where it can take information from, again, data that's in the system, but as well that it knows about the industry, about the market, about the customer itself, and it can basically become your sales assistant. It can help with meeting preparation, follow-up items after a meeting is done, anything that's put in there for the notes and information that you have. Sales GPT is basically learning about your customer and the interaction you have with it and giving you these tools. On the service side, there's things like service replies. So when you're in chat, this is with a live person, it's not a bot. However, when a customer asks a question in the chat, the agent then is able to quickly, instantly see a message response. Again, learned AI response that knows the customer, knows the information, and has prepared it for your review. So again, it's not automated, it's not a bot, but now you can edit that response. You can make a change to it, or you can approve it and respond. It's based on real language, as Preeti was saying. It's not based on just the data, but it's learning from the questions that are being asked by the client and responses that have been done by yourself and colleagues over time. It helps in building knowledge articles based on that information. So as each chat happens, as each email is sent, as each phone call is logged, it's going to grow. It's going to improve your knowledge articles because it's going to gather further information. That's going to help with service requests, with people going out into the field. Again, similar to a sales assistant, it can be a service assistant helping to prep them for service calls, whether it's information about the customer, information about the product they're going to be fixing, working on, anything that they need to know in preparation for that service meeting. Service GPT is going to be able to provide them. Some of the features that I'm personally really interested in beyond the business side have to do more on the development side. So from a development standpoint, if you think of creating a flow, rather than going in and actually building a flow, you can speak in natural language and you can say, create me a flow that sends an email to sales reps 30 days after an account is closed, or something to that extent. And it will create that flow for you. And now, again, as a developer, I've just saved myself, an hour, several hours of building that flow. And all I'm going to do now is edit it, work with it, change it. Similarly with Apex code, you can say, write me a class that's going to do these certain methods and use these objects or whatever it may be. And it's going to write that class for you to be able to review it and go over the details. As well, there's inline code suggestions. So while you're actually writing your code, it may be telling you, you're starting to create an infinite loop and you can't do that, or whatever it may be, and improving your code for you. So there's a lot of things in the works right now that are available, but there's so much that's coming in: marketing GPT, commerce GPT, Tableau, Slack, and many things. And again, the important thing about these is it's not just templated. These aren't Apex class templates or flow templates or email templates. These are prompts, based on natural language that it's learning from, and it's gathering information and building. So you're not just having the same repetitive processes built over and over again. It's actually intuitive and it's smart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's interesting because if you think 3 or 4 years ago, the no code, low code capabilities were really becoming popular because people really needed assistance in building stuff like flows, like you mentioned. We actually did develop a product. Steve was kind of the champion of that. Is a low code, no code solution for Experience Cloud, formerly Communities. But I think that this is really like the next step to Sabre, that the product in the App Exchange, to be able to just empower the average admin to do something that they would have to have development knowledge for. And I think all of us are kind of touching on it's not replacing one job function with a bot or technology, but it's just assisting the entire organization and maybe working a little bit more efficiently together.
Yeah, one of the things I thought of with that too on the development side is, in that no code or low code environment, obviously developers are expensive, and that's one of the main reasons, and it's hard to find that skill set. But even from a developer standpoint, to reduce that time by, saying, write me a test class for this that I've already created. Number one, from a developer, they hate writing test classes. They're always waiting to the end to do it. So it's going to handle that automatically for them. And number two, that's now time that you didn't spend, which is cost savings. Or even just debugging, what the developer takes in time to go through, 2,000 lines of code and figure out where something was breaking. Apex GPT can do it much quicker.
And John, I can tell you as a career developer, that is what's most exciting to me, is the ability to write a test class automatically.
I know.
I can't name something I enjoy any less than writing test classes. So
absolutely.
Awesome. I know I think Steve, you touched on this briefly, but a lot of the conversation around AI, not even just in the tech world, but kind of generally, has been about security and data security and how we can build some trust into these data models, just to make sure that customers aren't worried about their data being used nefariously or just being kind of, I guess, targeted in that way. So do you have any insight on some ways that we, as tech leaders who are going to be implementing some of this technology, could build in some trust into our data practices?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few techniques that we can adopt in the things that we do that will really enforce trust. But at the end of the day, what really causes concern for a lot of people is the fact that they just have data that's out there in the world. It's stored someplace, and it's a possible point of exploitation. As I sit here, as we all sit here right now, we probably could name 100 websites that have a credit card number of ours stored someplace. And you think about, it's like, okay, what's going to happen if somebody gets into that and obviously uses that data for nefarious purposes? When it comes to AI, there's a few levels of trust that we look at. The first and foremost one is that you don't want to expose data to somebody that shouldn't see that data. And if I put this in the context of Salesforce as an example, so John just talked about Sales GPT, where you're generating an email message, or on the service side, you're figuring out what content to send to that customer. You want to do that in such a way that when they put that prompt into GPT, that GPT is not surfacing data that the user actually shouldn't see. Maybe you actually write a prompt that says, tell me what the annual revenue for this customer is. And maybe it's a Department of Defense contractor, or just really, really sensitive data. So incorporating that layer of trust into these prompts is critical. Salesforce has made a big deal about that. They've demonstrated it. They've gone under the hood as to how they go about doing it. But one of the things that you can do that's a fairly straightforward technique is, when you're implementing any type of AI engine, use the data for that purpose, and then get rid of it. Keep that data as temporary and as transient as you can. And oftentimes you have to demonstrate that you're doing that, but just simply stating and adopting those principles as part of your build techniques goes a long way. Don't store it if you don't need it. And this is not a new concept. This is a concept that's been adopted architectural principles for decades. So it's just a reinforcement of that continued best practice, good coding principles, good build techniques. Get the data that you need when you need it, and when you don't need it, get rid of it. Don't store it if you don't need to, because if you store it the second you store it, you have now created a point where somebody could exploit that data. They could penetrate a database, a network, and whatever, and use that data for bad purposes.
Mm-hmm. And I believe that Salesforce is trying to get ahead of that with some recent developments in Data Cloud and Einstein Trust Layer, which are both new, that were rolled out
Absolutely.
around Dreamforce time. Did any of you attend any sessions around that you wanted to?
Yeah, I spent time in the Data Cloud and Einstein Trust Layer. And the nice thing about it is to see that it is planned accordingly, meaning, you have those prompts, which, first of all, the way that OpenAI works, or the way that any of these large language models work, is shared data. All across the internet, we're trying to share information so that all AI is growing and learning. However, what Salesforce allows you to do through their secure data retrieval is, in a sense, to use an example, earmark data to be shared and not to be shared. So through data masking, you can hide data that's sent to those large language models. So not everything is sent. So for example, if I were to say, describe how our products, how our sales products can benefit this customer, or customers, let's say, in general, in manufacturing or whatever it is, there's certain things that it's not going to share out there. So let's say if we were talking about a specific customer, and it's not going to share things like its revenue, maybe its employee size, different things to that extent. Things that are more generic, like our specific product that's not, proprietary or something to that extent, and how it relates to the finance market or manufacturing market, that's different, and that's more general in context. So that will be shared, but through the secure data retrieval and the data masking, you're basically able to hide what gets, in a sense, broadcasted or sent out there across the internet, for other AIs to learn from and grow from. We would want AIs to know more about our business, our products, and how great we are and how we can service our customers, but we don't want them knowing about the details behind the deal that we have with that customer. So that's really the key thing to this, is Salesforce is protecting data from what is shared out there. Not everything is exposed and visible. And I think that's where it really becomes important in the future that we build smart data models around AI, so we're not just exposing everything, you know.
And if
And
I may,
John, you just used a keyword. Sorry to cut, Preeti, but I mean, you talked about large language models, and that's the key.
Yeah.
These data sets have to be large, so these engines can learn from them.
and I just wanted to add to what Steve said, it's critical that they don't store data that they don't need to. And Einstein's trust layer, it's really not going to store that data, is what I heard. The integrations, all the data that's passing through the Einstein layer, it's going to use the models on it, pass the data out, but it doesn't store that data anywhere in the system. So that's actually really beneficial to customers.
And I think of it this way, just to add one more real world example of something that we're already doing and have been doing for a couple of decades now, is with credit card processing. We don't send the credit card information across. We have tokens, and so it's stored somewhere. And then there's a made up series of numbers and characters that's associated to that information. And that made up series of numbers and characters gets sent to the processor, and then they can reference that to the actual information. But that actual information is never shared and sent out. So it's kind of not a new concept, but at the same time, with AI and the growth of it, every day things are expanding and changing, and there's new hurdles to leap over. So it's a challenge, but again, it's really based on old school models in a sense of processing encrypted or stored secured data.
Another point is on trust. We need to ensure that there are no biases in the patterns or the outcomes that are coming out. And there's a concept called hallucinations, which is, think of it as, I don't know if you're as a child lay down on your backs and looked at the clouds and formed all these, I can see the country of Asia there and things like that. But AI can do that too. It can take all this data and say, I think this is what means, or this is what it represents. And it's actually misrepresentation. It's not actually doing the right thing. And to pick that out and to make sure that does not propagate through the system is going to be essential to build more trust in these models.
That's an interesting point, Preeti, because if you look at predictive capabilities as an example, and if you're training your model against a biased data set, it's really hard to overcome that bias with results that you're coming out from the prompt as an example. So it's a real challenge. I mean, it's very subtle. It's easy to miss, but it's very easy to perpetuate these biases.
We've mentioned a few times that, we're at the time of recording recently returned from Dreamforce, which is Salesforce marquee conference out in San Francisco. There was a lot of buzz surrounding AI for both the users that were attending sessions and, the Salesforce employees that were there. John Houtzman, I know this is kind of your bread and butter of reading the Salesforce ecosystem. What were some of the things that people were really excited about?
Yeah, it was an amazing Dreamforce. I've been to 8 of them, the past 8, and the buzz, even before I picked up my badge, all over San Francisco, you're seeing data and AI and CRM, and it was just an amazing conference. I wanted to kind of highlight maybe 3 things. One is introduce or just give you some more information on the Einstein 1 platform, talk a little bit about Einstein Copilot, and then a little bit about some of the things you're getting with Data Cloud right now in your org. So let's start with the Einstein 1 platform. So that's the AI-driven platform that Salesforce is promising to revolutionize the way businesses use data and CRM. So the platform itself empowers businesses to harness the power of data and develop low-code applications like Steve and John have been talking about, just making the whole process of application building safer and more efficient. What we learned was that one of the key features of Einstein 1 platform is the introduction of what they're calling Einstein Copilot. And this is the conversational AI assistant that's going to be integrated directly into the Salesforce user interface. So the AI assistant enables users to interact with Salesforce applications using that natural language and goes beyond just simple queries. It can automatically complete tasks, provide recommendations, and answer questions. it's just really cool. The example they gave at the keynote for Sales Cloud was AI for Sales Cloud will look at all of your leads and automatically prospect for you. So that's available in Q1, so not even that far off, but just pretty amazing. The other big announcement was the enhanced data cloud features. So Salesforce kind of talked about they want everybody in the Salesforce ecosystem to be an Einstein. That's how the marketing went around it. And so many of the sessions showcased the enhancements to Data Cloud. One of the really cool announcements was the integration of Data Cloud into the Einstein One platform, and with a new feature called Data Cloud Triggered Flow. And so this feature allows users to automate processes triggered by changes in data, providing real-time insights and enabling businesses like yours to change swiftly to the changing conditions. So better yet, at the opening keynote, it was announced that all customers with either an enterprise license, a UE, or a UE Plus license would get free Data Cloud and Tableau licenses. Specifically, it was highlighted that clients can now unify up to 10,000 profiles and start exploring with 2 Tableau creator licenses. And again, it was mentioned multiple times that no purchase is necessary for you. So this kind of goes back to when do you start using some of this? And really that's where I think a partner like Apps Associates could really help you on kind of putting together the roadmap for it. But those were the 3 ones I wanted to highlight, Molly.
Yeah, certainly a lot of change happening, a lot of big, announcements, and in their triannual releases, I think we'll keep seeing more and more AI focused tech. So that's great to know. I think we're almost ready to wrap up, but I just wanted to maybe go around one more time and ask, what's one thing about predictive or generative AI or just any of the newer technologies that are being released right now that is going to make the biggest impact on your personal job, your day-to-day, or how you think it will make the biggest impact on our clients. So we've talked about a lot of different topics here, so I feel like we can go a lot of
there's a lot. So I'll go first. I mean, I think John Christie mentioned this a little bit, but automating the mundane and the repetitive, I think, is a huge advantage of AI. With me being a career developer, there's always this innate fear, like, am I getting automated out of a job? I think it's far from that. You still need that layer of human interaction and thinking that you really just can't do with an AI engine, but it gives you a really, really big leg up and a big head start. So that, to me, I see that as our biggest benefit here.
Mm-hmm. And then if I just add on to Steve with that, I think companies and, even in our roles, we're going to see extreme efficiency, with accelerated speed of and accuracy of these, these systems generating code for us. It's going to make us much more efficient for our clients, making them much more efficient for their customers. And if I may, I know we talked about Einstein for various things, but there's also Einstein for Anypoint Code Builder, which is related to integrations and MuleSoft. And, I saw that through natural language processing, you could build an integration flow, which is fantastic, right? So I think with all these, updates and newer trends, we're going to see a lot more efficiencies gained across the board.
Mm-hmm. That's going to make a lot of people very happy, I feel.
I'd say for me, as a solution architect and regularly having to work with clients that believe they're extremely unique in their business, and we always push an 80-20 rule of standardization, and we push best practices and all these kind of more standardized approaches to things, often what we call design patterns. I think AI is going to help with that, because it's going to help us standardize what a solid solution is across the board for, quote to cash or whatever the system may be. And I think it's going to bring us quicker to that solution so that we can more focus on how do we fill in that 20%, that customized aspect, and rather than spending so much time just trying to get to that standardized level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point.
And I kind of go into two of the things I talked about. So the Einstein Copilot, having this conversational AI assistant integrated right into Salesforce for a salesperson, unbelievable. And then just waiting, if it can automatically prospect for me, I'm in heaven. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I think that's going to make a lot of salespeople very happy too. I can imagine that being super useful for someone who's brand new to a company and is trying to, make their way a little bit. I can see that being super useful. Okay, well, I wanted to thank you all for your time in the conversation today. I think it was really valuable. And as our listeners have heard, there's a lot of potential on the horizon. There's a lot of new capabilities that will help you with making your business more efficient or making your job function more efficient. And things are constantly changing. We're in a really rapid development phase right now. So if you're interested in learning any more about this topic or speaking with one of our panelists, feel free to find us on LinkedIn. And you can also learn more about Apps Associates at our website, appsassociates.com. All right. Thank you, everyone. And until next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Molly.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.